Nick Solaczek, nice to have you in the studio. A lot of people don't know, but my position as executive director with Ben in the Arka Brotherhood organization only came about because of you. And when you chose to step aside, Ben asked me to step in. So I want to start, I guess, in some way back at the beginning of your men's work journey and ask, why did you decide to join a men's group? And maybe a bit of the how. Yeah, just share us how that started.
Well, I mean, there's an interesting story there. I think probably like most guys, there's a thread of familiarity or something they relate to, which is that I joined a men's community because I was struggling. So, I wasn't in a good place. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a woman. I didn't have a purpose. I really just wasn't sure what I was doing with my life. And, that's not a good place to be. I was lucky that 3 years prior, I had met Phil Misselberger in Banyan Books, and he was giving a talk there. I started in his trainings, his co-ed trainings. This is before it was called CRT. And so I was working with him, as a teacher. And there was many things I learned and things that were happening for me, but I got to this point in 2015 where I just wasn't in a good place. I went for a session with him and he said, you should consider joining this men's group that I'm starting. Mm-hmm. So the reason that I joined is that somebody invited me. I didn't have the awareness or the forethought to think I need to develop myself as a man. And, it was really Phil's expertise and his wisdom, seeing something in me and believing in me and seeing that, I might benefit from the process. I had no idea what I would get from it. Mm-hmm. I really was thinking, what is this going to be about? What are we going to get from sitting around in a group? No TV, no women, no games, we're just talking for a couple hours. Like, what's going to come from that? Yeah. And changed my life. But, that was sort of like an invitation or extension from Phil that brought me in. And there was 6 of us that took him up on that. And now years later, we've got a big community. Mm.
It's funny, my journey into joining was different. Yeah, I think so oftentimes you hear people, I don't want to say at a low point, but like at a point where they're searching for something or they want something different in their life. I think I was just lucky to run into someone who was in the organization and get that invitation. For me, it was, I guess, curiosity more than anything. And I think being in it, I ended up discovering all the things that I didn't know I wanted or didn't know I wanted to work on or change in my life, but they were there. I certainly didn't know going in though. So I guess that leads me to my next question for you. Do you think men's work or men's groups are for everyone? Are they for all men? Why should someone join or not join a men's group?
Well, no, men's groups are not for everyone. Mm-hmm. If you don't identify as a man, then men's groups are not for you. And men's groups, most of the really good ones have a standard, sometimes a high standard. Mm-hmm. And just as a basic thing with Arka, one of the standards and one of the agreements that's in place is that you show up every week at the same time. Yeah. And you show up sober and you participate without distraction and you stay in communication if there's anything that gets in your way to prevent you from doing that. A lot of people really just do not want to meet that agreement. Yeah. So it's not for everyone. Yeah. And, men's groups will challenge you and things will come up just like, any experience in life that is examining something or that has an aspect of challenging you directly. So no, not for the faint of heart. Yeah. In my opinion, but also extremely rewarding. If you get into a great community that has agreements and policies and training and, ethics, it could be a really great experience. So it's not all men's communities are built the same. It's kind of like not all teachers are built the same. Mm-hmm. Not all priests are built the same. But I really have enjoyed Arka. It's been a great experience. And I think that you and Ben have done a lot to further the community and bring in some more strength to our agreements, to our standards, to our training. It's just come such a long way since we started 10 years ago with Phil's leadership.
I think sometimes when people are listening, it's especially men who are maybe imagining, oh, what would I get, or what would it be like to join a men's group? In what ways, like, what are the biggest things in your life or in you that shifted and changed that you're grateful for, that came about directly or indirectly from sitting in a men's, I mean, you were sitting in a men's group for a decade, basically. That's a lot of time. Yeah. So what are like some of the biggest things that happened for you, and maybe also that you think are maybe just inherent in sitting in a men's group that others could benefit from?
Well, there's a lot that I took away from that experience. I don't think we'd spend hours maybe unpacking all of that. It's really simple, actually. One is that I'm more comfortable in my body, which can sound sort of vague or maybe esoteric if you never had that experience, or you're not comfortable in your body. But I think for me growing up, I was never the guy that was, really masculine in terms of being a fighter, in terms of being maybe really fit and really strong and jacked.
Yeah.
The captain of the team, or the person who knew everything about sports or racing, or, I was sort of a nerd. I had more friends, especially in school and high school, that were women. And there was some sort of softness, I think, about me in general. And there's a lot there to kind of look at. But what I took away from the men's group experience is like, more comfortable in my body, more comfortable relating and talking to other guys, partly because I identify and see myself as a man. I like being a man. And really just that basic thing, like when you meet a stranger or you walk by someone on the street and you can look them in the eye and say hello, or give them a nod. And there's a real sort of maybe confidence, but self-assuredness and groundedness, I think, that I took away from that experience. It's like the men's group participation built me up a little bit. And also part of that was like a year after I joined Phil's group, I was leading my own group. So that also gave me some confidence. I had to, practice and develop, and Phil mentored me to get the sense like, okay, I can do this. And like, I can relate to other guys, and I can lead a conversation, and I can listen, and I can give good feedback that's helpful, and I can moderate conflict and put out fires, and, keep the train on the tracks. Those would be some of the most basic things that are extremely valuable. Like even now, me and my partner, we have a 2-year-old puppy, and I'll be out at the park, I'll be at the track, I'll be wherever, and I'll get into conversations with other people, but also a lot of other men from different walks of life who have done different things, who have no experience in men's group, or some I find out, they do. Yeah. But the point is that because I'm more comfortable with myself, I have the capacity to be more curious in those moments. Like if I'm not comfortable with me and I got all this stuff going on in my own neuroses, then I'm not as open and relaxed to say, oh, how was your day? Or, oh, tell me more about that. Or, oh, what do you do for work? Or just like, like being comfortable in that relating. It's like bringing a sense of relaxation to the interaction, that like, it's okay. And anything you say to me, I'm going to be able to hold that. Even if you tell me to screw off, even if you tell me you don't want me to talk to you, well, I can accept that. It's like this widening of your energetic field, to use kind of like a woo-woo term. No,
I mean, it's interesting. You're describing it, and it's just landing as true for me too. It's almost, if you could simplify everything in men's group down to that one piece, it'd be knowing yourself more. Like knowing yourself on a deeper level and accepting it and feeling confident in it, in yourself. Yeah, it brings you to a place of stillness,
Mm-hmm.
confidence. Yeah, I like that. It's funny how like your internal, you mentioned like your internal world was, especially when you're younger, it was like not feeling super masculine or confident in your masculinity, which is interesting because how I perceive you, and I think how others perceive you, obviously it's changed throughout your life, but just the difference between someone's internal world and maybe the outward appearance, initial appearance. I mean, I look at you, I listen to you, you have like the deepest masculine voice, you're tall in stature. I think at first glance, most people would consider you a masculine man, which, yeah, it's just interesting how parallel that with maybe your internal world as a teenager growing up. Mm-hmm. So I guess the next question I'd ask is like, what does it mean to be a man for you, and your relationship to masculinity in particular, and what's that journey been like? I mean, you mentioned in growing up that you didn't feel, there was some element of feeling not fully within your masculine capacity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So explain what that was like for you, and just in general, how do you define what it is to be a man or what it is to be masculine?
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm still figuring that out, and still answering that question. And as I continue to grow and develop and learn, I'm putting the pieces of that together. But I think most of us start with sort of a basic, superficial idea of what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
Like, as a 17-year-old boy, I had a poster of a Ferrari 360 Modena Spider on the wall. And I was like, that's what I'm going to drive one day. Photo of, poster of like a woman in a bikini, something like this. I don't think it was anyone in particular, but that was kind of like, these are masculine things. I want a woman, I want a car. And I had a piggy bank I'd put money in, right? I had a nice stereo, I had my CD collection, my toys, and my magazines. And, even now, when you look at the internet, you look at social media, there is just a general idea that a man is someone who, a great man, a successful man, has jewelry, a six-pack, a nice car, maybe a couple pit bulls, and maybe not just one, but maybe several, supermodel women in his orbit as romantic partners. There is a lot of this imaging that we get in advertising and in the influencer world that suggests that. I don't have any judgment about any of those things. Certainly it'd be nice to have a luxury supercar that I could afford. Maybe that'd be fun. But being a man, I think, for all of us is going to mean something different. For me, it means I have a level of responsibility. It means that I'm responsible for myself, my emotions, the outcomes of my life. If something doesn't go the way that I want it to, then I take ownership of that. If I say something that pisses my partner off, that I dig deep to say, okay, hey, I'm sorry that hurt you, and I'm not an intention to hurt your feelings, and to try and work that out. It means a lot of different things, but I think that I can be a man regardless of how much money is in my bank account, regardless of my body fat percentage, or whether I have a large jewelry collection or supercar collection. You can be a man, you can be a good man. And Phil, when he wrote the code, I think he put together some great ideas there in his view of like, what does it mean to be a man?
Yeah.
How can you be successful in that pursuit? Being a conscious warrior. So, I agree with all of that as well. But I think that there's a leadership thing in this, in terms of direction and purpose and responsibility. That's been a big thing for me. And maybe because it's sort of what I needed to learn, what I needed to embody and take on for myself, finding a life purpose, taking responsibility for what's going on around me.
Yeah.
And that continues in relationship with my partner, like having a sense of leadership, which can be a level of self-awareness about what's going on, and a sensitivity, which is not necessarily a weakness or a softness or, I'm so sensitive, I can't handle it, but that I can sense what's going on and have a sense of like what to do next. John Wineland and David Data talk about it that way, like knowing what to do next, is a real kind of masculine quality. And, I don't always know what to do next, but I've definitely gotten a lot better at it through practice, through thinking about it that way. And I think about things a lot through relationship, because I'm a relationship teacher, because I live with a woman. And if you live with a woman, you're going to get challenged, and you're going to get triggered, and you're going to have moments that feel like a nightmare, not because women are nightmares, but because relationships are hard.
Challenging. Yeah.
So it's a little bit of what, I think about it, what it means to be a man. And as you ask the question, I could just see how it could be answered any number of ways.
Of course, I think the picture you painted too is, I'd actually argue it's one that is more of an older generation. I'm curious if you see any unique challenges with younger men or men of the newer generations.
Well,
and how that's different.
Yeah, I'm not in the school system. Me and my partner don't have a kid, and all I kind of see or sense of the younger generation is what I might see on social media in terms of comments.
Yeah.
And what I might absorb through podcasts or other media as they talk about the younger generation. So I don't really have a lot of energy firsthand on that. I think that the internet and social media is definitely rotting our brains and really impacting, our focus and our sense of self, and really eroding our sense of presence, our ability to be in the moment and present with ourselves, present with our partner. We're just overwhelmed and flooded, with a lot of info and content. And that's having disastrous results. I'm not a neuroscientist, but just personally as an individual, noticing, like, if I'm on social media, if I have the apps on my phone, if I'm using it an hour a day, like, my partner even notices when that's happening.
She watches the brain rot happen, and
she can just tell, like, she can tell energetically, like, how I'm walking, how I'm talking, how I'm thinking about the world, what my attentiveness is to her. Like, we sense these things about each other, like, when you're in a relationship. So the younger generation, I'm hearing things, right? I'm hearing that they're entitled. I'm hearing that they've given up hope, that they feel like they want big changes. And Mom Donnie, just got elected in New York. People are hoping for big change there. I don't really look to political leaders for change. I don't think that the man who gets elected is going to make a big difference in my life. And maybe I'm privileged to be able to say that. I think I'm the person that's going to make a difference in my life. I think that if you're 17 or you're 20 or you're 55, you are the person who's going to make a difference in your life. And some of us are dealt very difficult hands. Some of us are carrying heavy burdens, more so than others. But at the end of the day, really comes down to you.
I think it's a very important message. As I do have the experience working with youth and the younger generation as a high school teacher, I think that's a tale as old as time, is the younger generation being very idealistic, maybe naively idealistic. Hence, like, a lot of the protests, activism, asking for change, whether it's political or otherwise, is often the younger generation. Like, you can look back at decades past and see the same pattern emerge. The one piece that I think is invaluable, you just hit on the head, that is the most effective change someone can have in the world, is within themselves. How they operate within the world and how they change the world in their everyday actions, and how they show up and how they hold relationships. There's real power there. And I often think that the further reaching impact of that in the world tends to go uncounted, unseen, even unacknowledged. It's hard to quantify, but at least in my view, that's where, like, the real work and the real power lies. And so I think it's an important message for young people in particular, if they want to make change in the world. It's, yes, you can still have your idealistic visions of how you want things to change and vote politically in that sense. But more importantly, looking inwards, focusing inwards, and becoming a type of person, nothing external, but internally, to make that change.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes time to become something. It takes time to become a person that you like.
Yeah.
And make mistakes and fall flat on your face and pick yourself back up and develop confidence, by taking risks and failing and not making that mean something really bad about you and getting back on the horse, so to speak. Decades of, and then
decades of mistakes. And
I imagine, if I'm lucky to be 70, 80, 90 years old, I'll feel like, oh, wow, I got lots to learn. And I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done. And, maybe next time, maybe in the next life.
One of the biggest smacks in the face that I think we've all had and young people tend to get is in relationship. It's like an amazing teacher, a brutal teacher. And of course, that's the focus of your work now. You have your own podcast, you have your own business, you work with couples and with men. You trained under Harville and Helen Hendricks doing imago therapy. You've been doing that, what, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, I finished my certification in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tying that into men's work, what are some classic patterns that you see in men where they're perhaps sabotaging themselves, sabotaging their relationship, and just generally struggling in relationship? What are some things that you see very common amongst men who have not maybe done a lot of inner work or therapy worked with anyone?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I wish you'd given that to me in advance. I'd probably come up with 100 things. When I talk with couples every week, there's always patterns on either side, things that people are doing that sabotage their relationship, and they don't realize that they're doing it. Mm-hmm. It's easy to be frustrated. It's easy to complain. It's easy to say, hey, you're ruining my life. But it's much harder to see how you also co-create the dynamic with your partner. So with men, 80% of guys, when they're stressed, upset, or hurt, what they tend to do with that experience in relationship and in life is that they compartmentalize that. So they keep things inside. They work through things in their own mind, in their own head. They withhold their thoughts and feelings and behaviors. It's kind of like keeping cards close to your chest, and believe that being independent, being a lone wolf, working through things on your own, that is the right way to do things. That's the healthy way to do things. And you don't ask for support. You don't let anyone know, and you deal with it. And in the attachment world, they call that avoidance. In imago, they call it minimizing.
In men's work, they call it a lone wolf.
Exactly. Yeah. In the psychobiological approach to couples therapy, they call it island. And it's a big challenge for guys because we wake up in the morning and we believe that our way of operating is the right way. That logic is the right way to approach life. And I believe that. I love logic, but it also gets me in trouble because whether you're in a hetero relationship or some other setup, if you're a more logical person, then you are going to be attracted to someone who's more emotional. And this kind of languaging is actually a little bit triggering for some people, because if I say to my woman, oh, you're more emotional, you're not so logical, it sort of sounds like a put down, like what, I can't think, like you don't think I can. Yeah. So, one way I like to teach this is there's a kind of person who their strengths and abilities are more in their acting and thinking centers. And that person marries and falls in love with someone who's more in their sensing and feeling centers.
Why is that? Why does that pattern seem to emerge?
Well, opposites attract. There's a lot of different theories on this as to why. I believe that we are attracted to someone who has these strengths because we don't have them. So actually, by being with this person, I get to basically, by merging with them and being in relationship with them, I get some of these strengths. I'm stronger from a survival standpoint with someone who also has these things, and we can work together and collaborate to stay alive, to navigate the complexities of life.
And it's not like necessarily a conscious choice. This is like a
totally, yeah. And my psyche recognizes this, and it says, "Ooh, I want that." And so if they're with me, then I'll also have those things. And maybe I'll be able to reclaim some of those things in me. Maybe they'll rub off on me a little bit, you know?
How often do you see, like, we're kind of talking in the sense where the man is the logic driven person in the relationship. Do you ever come across relationships where those roles are maybe switched and it's the man that's maybe the more emotional, chaotic, and the woman that's the more rational?
For sure. But, you know, even if you're the guy who's you identify with logic and you love chess and puzzles and reading and philosophy, and, you know, these are the things that maybe are part of your lifestyle, you still do things that are illogical. You know, like I like to think of myself as perfect, that I've got it all together, and, you know, I'm fine. As we
all do.
Right. And so it's kind of my defense or my mask. And in relationship, typically there's one partner, male or female, who wears the mask that they're perfect, that they've got it all together, and they have judgments about their partner, and their partner wears another mask, and it's that they believe that they're broken and something's wrong with them and that they need help, or that, you know, they're fucked up in some way. Both stories are complete bullshit. But we hang on to them for, you know, certain reasons. There's certain kind of shadow motivations that are there. And then we pick someone who's got the opposite thing going on. Because wouldn't it be great if I feel so broken that if I felt more like everything was okay and I'm all good?
Yeah.
And for the person who feels like they're perfect, wow, wouldn't it be nice for them to acknowledge that they're not? And that, hey, you know, it might be something here for me to look at, something for me to examine, not to become a, you know, self-conscious wreck, but to be more self-aware. And I see this in every couple. You know, this is just one version of the pattern. So for guys, you know, this minimizing thing, this constriction of energy that we do, it's tightly held breath. It's, you know, keeping things to ourselves. It's the turtle in the shell sort of energy, rigid, stubborn, rebellious, avoidant, attached. And there's a big opportunity there to soften that a little bit and open up slightly, you know, to share more about what's going on with you, to recognize that, oh, you have needs, you have, you know, things that you want in life and want in relationship, things that maybe you could ask for from your partner, but you don't really have a sense of that because you grew up in a home where that wasn't really nurtured and cultivated. You grew up in a society where you were told something different, which is that you need to be cool, calm, collected, cool hand Luke, unaffected, detached, nothing ruffles your feathers. And sometimes in a home where it's like what you want and how you feel doesn't matter. Do what I tell you to do. Sit down, shut up, get dressed. We're leaving. You know, we're leaving the house. And everyone has a different experience of this, but the point is we all come out of a variety, quantum multiverse of different childhood homes. We develop strategies, and for a lot of men, one of the strategies they develop to cope with life is this minimizing thing. Yeah. So there's an opportunity there to open up a little bit. And it doesn't occur to you, like, because you just wake up in the morning, this is how you are. It doesn't occur to you that this is going on. And when I say you know, I'm really talking to myself, because I do this, right? Constrict, don't say anything, keep it to myself, avoid fear, control, domination, being smothered, being guilt tripped, made to feel bad about myself, made to feel not good enough. What a perfect way to protect myself from any of that.
Nobody can see me.
Nobody knows. No one knows. And then, you know, the guys traditionally have so many complaints about their nagging ball and chain woman who's anxious. Mama, I want this, I want that. You don't fuck me enough. No, right?
Or the woman who wants to feel or connect with her man more. He doesn't share his emotions with me. He's not connected to his emotions. He doesn't share anything. I don't know. I'm kind of guessing. I don't know what's going on with him. Yeah. He's very closed off. I think that's actually it's a common thread that I've heard over and over in relationship. Women feeling disconnected from their man and maybe even passing judgment saying they're not connected to what they're feeling. Speaking personally, in my relationship now, I'm married with Ellie, we definitely went through that phase. And there was a period where, yeah, it didn't feel safe for me to express. I was so used to that pattern that you were mentioning of, oh, walls up, closed down. I got this. I can handle it. I'm a rock. There was also a piece that was, I didn't feel safe to share my true feelings. I didn't feel safe to really open up to her what was actually going on, how I truly, maybe my deepest fears in our relationship, my judgments of the relationship, things that weren't working. So early in the relationship, I remember I was kind of stuck in this internal world and these pressures and these thoughts feeling big and not feeling like I could go and open up to my partner. One of the patterns that we had was there were moments early on in the relationship where maybe I did open up a little bit, and either I would get shamed, put down, or there just wasn't space held for me to actually share freely of what was going on, or we get twisted into something that's about her. Yeah. I'm like, great. Okay. Now this thing that I'm sharing has become about you. And now I'm the bad person somehow, and I'm holding space for you. Like, great. Now I'm not going to say anything anymore. How would you advise men? I mean, you mentioned like that opening is a path to a better relationship, is a path to feeling more connected to your partner. How do you get over that line? And because like so much can also be tied into how the couple interacts with each other, how they communicate with each other, where it feels like almost an impossible bridge to cross. It feels scary. It feels like when you do try and go there, it turns into a whole argument mess where you're yelling at each other and it becomes explosive. And it's like, it just feels like something you can't do. And so you go about your day and you're like, okay, well, that sucked. I guess I'll do it on my own. I guess I'll not share. I guess I don't know, wait, and hopefully this goes away and the relationship will kind of settle and it'll be fine again. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of men that have been stuck in that place. So what can a man do to take that first step to kind of get over that hill?
Yeah. It's, I struggle to answer this question sometimes because every person is like in such a different relationship. Every person has a different capacity, a different nervous system, a different window of tolerance, and like a sense of themselves, emotional maturity, psychological well-being. And sometimes I have, struggled to really be there in the moment and do the right thing. But one overarching thing that I got from men's work and men's groups was, don't expect your woman to hold space for you all the time, and have more of an emphasis on holding space yourself. So it's important that your partner knows you. It's a great thing to not keep secrets, no deceit, no lying, no manipulation, truthfulness, integrity. I am who I say I am. And that you don't overprocess with your partner and that you don't bring all that to them. Now, this is really just because I'm with a woman, I'm straight. So I just like to talk about man-woman relating.
Yeah.
Seems to be an important thing, a valuable thing that I can talk to my partner, right? But
they're not your emotional dumping ground.
They're not my emotional dumping ground. And I avoid bringing my raw process to her all the time about what I'm thinking about or what I'm working on. So there's a balance. It's like, yes, I can. Hey, are you available? Can I talk this out with you? And she wants to hear. But there's also this weird thing that men and women, I think, are working out, which is that women want to hear from their man. They want an emotionally sensitive man. They want a man who is in his heart. They want a man who, can be present in the moment and loving with them. But then also they want a man who protects them
Yes.
and is dangerous but not a danger and is a little bit wild, but then they want to control him so that they won't be abandoned, but then they control him and then now he's kind of passive and then
They don't want to pass.
so we're working this stuff out and it's there's no real equilibrium that we're going to get to, but I think having an expectation that okay, like for me, my relationship works when I have more of an emphasis on my own groundedness, my own being in my center, my own self-containment, holding space, presence, however you want to describe it. Things go sideways when I am out of that, when I shift out of that. So if I get triggered, overwhelmed, I take the hook, something she says sends me into, my reactivity, or go into my not good enough story. That's where things get a little weird and squirrely. Otherwise, the train typically stays on the tracks. If I can be, the energy of it is like calm, clear, confident, really there in the moment. And then everything's usually okay, because my partner has a sincerity about her that she just wants to be connected, just wants things to feel good.
Yeah.
But because I'm a minimizer and I keep things to myself, and sometimes I don't communicate well, right? Or I mishear or misremember or fail to communicate, she gets bothered or annoyed or agitated. Then I go into my rigidity and my defensiveness and my stubbornness, and I know better and I'm fucking perfect and don't you talk to me like that, and then she reacts. So I guess the way that I kind of teach this is like, you got to be able to take responsibility for you. If you can turn this self-awareness and the sensitivity way up in terms of, okay, what's happening with me? There's an opportunity to make a different kind of choice. And then, typically we'll get some positive changes from that. So it's a long-winded answer to this question, but it's something I do think about a lot. And I've found that over the years, because Alyssa and I have been together almost 6.5 years, there are layers to it. And it's really, some people talk about personal development, like peeling back layers of the onion. And over time, so far, my experience of it has been that way, that it's like, you just can't sense what's deeper until you've gone through the first gate. You can't really see what's next until you've gotten out of that first room that you're in, until you've let this thing go that you're holding on to. And it's like, okay, I can maybe feel another aspect to this, a deeper aspect to this in some way.
Sounds like there has to be some curiosity, though. Like there has to be some desire to understand the relationship, the dynamic, yourself.
Oh, understanding's critical. Absolutely. I mean, if I don't make any sense to her, it's not good. This person that I'm invested the rest of my life with, sort of the declaration I'm making, I'm going to be with you forever. And then I have this moment where you don't make any sense. It's very, very disturbing to the psyche, and vice versa. And that's where couples really get all screwed up, is that I'm having this experience with you where you don't make any sense. Why do you do things this way? What is wrong with you? Why do you react like this? Why can't you just listen to me? Yeah. Right? Why do you put the dishes in the sink and leave them there? Sort of a classic thing.
Why do you feel the dishwasher that way? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So, we get into these moments where we get this power struggle, which is basically like our psyche is disturbed by the difference between us and our partner, which could be a political view. It could be the way we do the dishes. Every couple I work with have a kitchen dynamic that they drive each other crazy with. And what I believe is that it's not about the dishes. It's like 100% about childhood and feeling misunderstood, feeling alone, feeling like someone doesn't care about you, that you're not a priority, that you don't matter, or that someone's trying to tell you what to do and force you to do it their way and control you and make you submit. And both of those sort of energetic patterns, most people can relate to, that they've got something like that in their past, where one parent or both parents,
I'm sure sometimes you sit down with a couple and one person is more keen to be in the room with you than the other.
Often.
often. And I'll just kind of like call it out. Men are typically the ones who are there reluctantly.
I mean,
not always.
70 to 80% of the time, I would say that's true.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? And like, I think men get stuck in the narrative. I mean, there's a common narrative nowadays that, I mean, therapy, obviously you are a therapist, so you have your own world where you see its value. I think there's a lot of men out there, and even in the internet sphere, there's a lot of people questioning the value of therapy now. And just like anything, there's all these professions. There's good doctors, there's bad doctors, there's good therapists, there's bad therapists. In terms of a man walking into your room and feeling that way, kind of maybe in there begrudgingly, or maybe even discounting that there's any value in it at all, how do you even move the needle forward in that situation?
Well, a couple of things here. First is like, I am certified as a clinical imago therapist. I'm unlicensed, so I market myself as a teacher, as a coach, just to give credit for those who have spent, almost a decade inside of institutions and jumping through hoops to get their designation. And the other piece here is like, there are methods, there are ways, there are approaches and techniques to deal with resistance. And one thing that doesn't work is when you push into it. So, when you do that, you get that block, like resistance meets resistance. So you join it. You say, yeah, therapy's a waste of time,
Man, how does that go over with the logic-minded man?
Yeah.
You're validating his initial judgment.
Really the question is, like, this is such a big subject because there's so many people that have defensive partners, highly sensitive defensive partners, resistant partners, partners that say, I'm not going to therapy, that's for psychopaths, or that's total bullshit, or that's woke nonsense, or whatever they might say. And there's a lot of pain around this for men and women, that they're stuck in a position that their partner doesn't want to get support. Their partner is maybe unwilling in some way. And it's a difficult position, which is why often one partner is dragged into therapy, into couples work. So once they get there, one of the questions that I always have is, hey, I can understand that you maybe don't like therapy, or you're afraid it's going to be a waste of money, waste of time, it doesn't work. What would you suggest then to work this out? Like what kind of how should we approach this? What should we do about it? What would you like to do about it?
In some sense, you're kind of like, that's a very, not intentionally sneaky, but it's a very sneaky way to get the man in conversation.
Yeah, well, maybe it's sneaky. I just see it as direct, because there's a problem here. You don't want to have a nightmare at home. You want to be able to talk to your partner in a way that doesn't piss them off. Yeah. And now they've dragged you in here to come see me. Yeah,
facing the reality of their situation.
And you want me to fix the problem, but I actually can't fix this problem unless both of you are willing to try something different. And I can give you some suggestions, and you're going to find out what works. So it's a weird kind of moment. I'm crazy enough that I seem to just love this. Like I love having conversations with couples. Yeah. And it's a very enriching and purposeful, and it feels like important work to me personally. So I love it. And there's also only so much you can do, for people. Like, you can't work too hard as a facilitator. You can't overfunction. I can't come to the house and wag their gums for them and put the words in their mouth. We've all got to find that sort of place within us where it's like, okay, all right. Yeah. Okay. Let's work on this together, honey. Like, let's be on the same team. Let's create something here that we both love, instead of being inside of our, again, not good enough story, our inner critic, our shame. And ultimately that's usually what's going on for people, is it's kind of a shame. Like couples don't want to come see me.
Of course, you have to face the reality that things aren't going well.
Yeah. And for guys in particular, they really don't want to spend the time and money in that. They don't want to feel good. They want peacefulness. And I shouldn't say just guys. Guys definitely want peace. Like I hear that a lot. They just want peace in the household, which is sort of where the happy wife, happy life kind of idea comes from. Yeah, I mean, I could go on forever about this. And I think that with the resistance piece, relationships just don't do well over the long term with one person who's unwilling. And if they're unwilling, they typically have a deep set of ingrained limiting beliefs. Things like, if we have to go to counseling or therapy, this relationship is not meant to be.
They've already written it off.
Yeah. If we're not happy, then, well, we just shouldn't be together. Yeah. Like if we need to go talk to a support party or a third person, that means something really bad about our relationship. It's like something's messed up here. Like I think Alyssa and I went to therapy in the first year of our relationship. I can't remember if it was like 7 months or 8 months, but we went. And I heard a judgment from a family member, I think it was my mom, who was like, oh, well, if you're going to therapy in the first year, that's not good. Right. And she's been married 40 years and I think she's been once. So, it's funny. And it's like, how's that going? Right. Because like, it's not like they always talk perfectly to each other and like, know how to do things. So I have a couple podcast episodes on this, like highly defensive partners, your partner's unwilling to do the work. So like if anybody's listening and this is hitting
there's a
home.
deep dive that you can do.
Yeah, several episodes on that.
Okay, so that's the first piece. You have to have both partners willing to show up, to face and confront, and to work together to resolve whatever issues they have in their relationship. If that's there, are there still any other like strong red flags or disastrous things that partnerships can still have that are hard to overcome or that you see a lot in your practice?
I mean, there's lots of things that are disastrous, but some couples, they have an affair. One person's cheating, one person's had an affair. They cheated once, they had an affair for a period of time that got found out, the partner discovered. Very, very traumatic situation to go through. One partner's brain is completely traumatized and it's like, being sick for a year, basically from that. Some couples work through that, so people can recover from things, secret gambling addictions and other lies, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, all this kind of stuff. People can work through it, but you typically really need some support and you need a commitment to change, got to be committed to your partner, essentially, committed to some kind of process and committed to growth. Like that's kind of the 3-pronged plug of conscious relationship. I think in general, like if you've got a man who's violent, you really need to just get out of there. It's like a terrible situation to be in. And I think if someone is seriously addicted, to a drug, it's not going to work. You see these things all around, right? Like, I found out my husband is addicted to pornography. Right. Oh, I found out my wife is having an affair with this guy that she works with. I found out my partner's addicted to pills. There's all kinds of different things that go on for people. And those are the things that disturb us and upset us. They're like energetic exits. So I exit my relationship. I exit the present moment. I take a drug. I take a substance. I get with someone else. I cheat. I lie. I gamble. I do these things because I don't really like what's going on with me. I feel unfulfilled. I feel uncomfortable. I feel a lack of aliveness or a lack of safety in my relationship. So now I'm going somewhere else. I'm putting my energy somewhere else, my focus somewhere else. And my partner is deeply disturbed by that. And that kind of stuff needs to be cleaned up, essentially. That doesn't mean you can't have a glass of wine or you can't have a gummy with your partner or watch a movie or whatever, Geez, some people are polyamorous. They have multiple partners, open relationships. There's all kinds of different configurations. But if you're not truthful about it, you're not in agreement about it, that's a problem. That's essentially what a relationship is a successful relationship is a really clear and strong agreement. We agree that we're in this for the same reasons. This is what I want. This is what you want.
Yeah.
We're willing to trade. We're willing to do some negotiations, but we don't have any little, secret games, insincere stuff going on, covert stuff we're trying to get from each other. We actually put all that on the table to say, this is what we want. We are only sleeping with each other for the rest of our lives, or until we decide we want a kid or 10. This is what we want out of this. Hey, if things go sideways, if we get in a bad place, we're going to get help, right? Like we have agreements to protect each other and honor what, some therapists call the couple bubble, the energetic container of our relationship.
A lot of the framework that we've spoken in thus far has been very much from a heteronormative lens. You as a therapist, some of the most valuable tools you have are based on patterns you see. And I'd say probably most of the relationships you see are heterosexual relationships. The relationships that are not, do those patterns still emerge in the same way? Do they have their own unique?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I've worked with female couples, and they have this similar thing going on.
Okay,
they have minimizing, maximizing. They have one person wants to ask a lot of questions, talk about everything, overshare about their experience, and the other person, likes quiet time and keeps things to themselves and doesn't share about their day. One person's distressed by separation, one person's distressed by closeness, and they need each other to kind of like make it work. Because if two people don't like being close, you have no relationship.
Yeah.
But if one person chases the other, then, okay, we can have a little, cat and mouse game and we can be together.
I like how you're speaking in patterns. Sometimes the language that can get used is like the masculine, feminine polarity dynamic and all the traits and patterns that get associated with that. Do you still find that a useful framework to use when you're working with same-sex couples?
I don't teach a ton with polarity language, but I like it. It's just not my training. So my training is to get couples in dialogue with each other, talking about what's going on, talking about my masculine or my feminine, talking about what's going on with me and what is it that I'm stuck on? What is it that I want? And really trying to create some clarity and understanding and empathy and real sense making of like each other. So that's really what I try to do in my sessions. I don't spend a ton of time lecturing on polarity. I also, in the gay couples that I work with, I do see the polarity. You can see it in dress, in haircuts, in energetics, in, the defensive strategies. There is an opposites attract, and it's not necessarily like, male, female. It's just, you can see the way that the merry-go-round turns, Yeah.
A lot of couples enter your room when things aren't good, but I'm guessing there's also a space for couples where it's not catastrophic or they're not drowning in the deep end and they just want to make things better. I think, again, this is where a lot of judgments can come around therapy generally, this idea that you have to go when things are bad or that going actually can cause you to like get stuck in your mind and make things bad itself. Would you dispel that? What value is there as a couple who feels stable, who feels good? And there may be small things, but there's nothing huge that they're working on. What value might they have going to sit down with you or another therapist?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? Like as soon as you start talking about your problems, then it can get tricky.
Okay.
And that's one of the issues that couples have is they go to therapy and they talk about their problems and they focus on what's not working. And that is an issue in itself. We have our negativity bias. We're looking for danger, threat, what's the problem I've got here? What am I frustrated with? And how can I get you to change? And they sometimes book a session with me thinking he's going to get my partner to change. We're going to fix this fucker, It's like, can we curse on here? Is this?
Yeah, of course.
So I mean, there's just so much there, but the way that I think about it is sort of in line with Harville is like, hey, let's get to a place where you guys can learn how to talk to each other without pissing each other off.
Mm-hmm.
Harville calls this, a pre-dialogical couple is a couple who doesn't know how to do that. So you're not able to talk about everything with your partner. Mm. You are afraid to share about what's really going on with you.
Yeah.
You are not able to hold space for your partner's reality. You're not able to make the moment all about them, which is an extremely important skill. Not to enforce narcissism and self-absorption, but to actually turn off the TV channel of your life for a moment, to just make the moment all about your partner. It's a really important thing. I personally take the stance that, as a masculine identifying person, that I do that more. I try to turn off my TV channel to make the moment all about my partner. Mm-hmm. But I also need that from her. I also need her to hear me out on things. I need her to understand where I'm coming from. And if we're pre-dialogical, we can't do this, then we can't really move our relationship into a more mature, successful, satisfying, and fulfilling place, because we're so stuck in the minutia of our non-listening and our judgment and our projections and our childhood trauma and, all that.
So there is value, but there is, you mentioned like the negativity bias of couples coming in and I don't want to say wanting, but the tendency to focus on problems. Are there times where you're like, okay, guys, like get out of here. You have the tools now. You trust that they are dialogical. They can talk to each other. They feel like each other can hold space for what they have to bring to the relationship. So they have the capacity to work on it on their own. Are there moments where you as a therapist are like, okay, get out of here. Like you guys don't need to be here. In fact, maybe we're focusing on such small fish here that it's not that helpful.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely that sort of framing for couples for sure. Is like, hey, just so you guys know, like everybody has this experience. Everybody deals with it. And there's a lot of great things about this relationship that you guys have going. Mm-hmm. And that's really where the value is. Like, I was talking about the negativity bias and some of the challenges and dynamics, but if couples make a commitment to zero negativity, which is something that I coach on, they start to consciously put their energy into positives and appreciations and things that are working and doing well.
Yeah.
And we just have a big opportunity to do that. Dr. Terry Real, author and like famous couples therapist, he says that all his couples have ADD, appreciation deficit disorder. And, I think that's true, right? When couples come in crisis, they have a problem. They're focused on what's not working, how they don't feel safe. They don't feel seen. They don't feel heard and valued. And it's a painful place. So couples therapy, for me, has been really great. It's a weird thing because I started doing couples therapy before I got certified in couples therapy. Mm. So I was open to it and believed that it could be good. I had a positive experience. I have people coming to me, and I'm very young in my career. I've been coaching for 6 years. I have people coming to me all the time with horror stories from other therapists, other couples therapy, things that you just wouldn't think ever would happen with a trained professional who's gone through all the government hoops and supervision and all these things. And I'm surprised time and time again, but this is why I'm in business, is because there are a lot of people out there who are not walking the walk. They're out of integrity, and they need to take a deep, hard look in the mirror, So that's what it is. But the appreciation thing is a big deal, positivity. And if you can do it on your own, do it on your own. Read a book, listen to my podcast or someone else's podcast, and make those positive changes. Do it with your partner, read a book, listen together, and you don't have to go to couples therapy.
Yeah.
But if you don't do something, right? Because it's like you got pain, you're suffering. Okay, right? Suffering's a part of life. Maybe we could turn that down, ease that problem, move on so you can use your energy for more meaningful pursuits. But these relationship problems never, ever, ever solve themselves. There are no things that magically go away because you wish it to happen. You know, that's I wish I had the device from Men in Black. I forget what it's called, where you erase the person's memory.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Flash pen.
Right. Every time I say something stupid or stubborn or dismissive to my partner, I invalidate her. I'm reading an email and she's talking to me and I'm not paying attention. If I could just erase that, you know, my life would be so much more convenient. But you can't.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a high stakes game. So we really, in 2025, I was in a session one time. I can't reveal all the details of this, but I'll just say what was said. Someone said in 2025, there are no excuses for not knowing. You've got infinite information, infinite resources, most of it free. And so while, you know, getting help and hiring someone is going to cost money, it's more of a childhood kind of game to say, I don't know. I don't know. Right?
I chose not to do anything about it. I chose not to find out.
It's just not good enough as an adult to just continue to say that. Now I can say it in a moment. Oh, wow. You know, I don't know. I need to think about that. But if I don't know every day, year after year, you're really stuck on something else. There's something else happening there within you, which is unable to take responsibility or take action. And there are valid scientific reasons that we can have empathy and compassion for, that people are stuck and are in a protective place and immobile. It's a nervous system response to feeling overwhelmed and unsure and unsafe, and you know, but there's ways through all of that. We can retune the nervous system, and
yeah, that's right. I mean, so much of what you've talked through is like how two individuals show up in a relationship. That coming together is a culmination of both their lives in totality, and as you've mentioned, a large part to do with one's childhood, how they were brought up, kind of the stories and that were solidified into their mind, their own personality. Things kind of get more concretized as they grow up. Do you ever reach a point where you're working with someone and it just feels like the basic relating tools that you have for this couple to work with each other maybe aren't enough? And there's like, maybe you could do it, but you're also like, oh, I see this person really needs something else. What do you do there? Do you send them off?
Well, the right thing to do if you feel like you can't help as a facilitator is to refer. Refer to someone else, refer to a specialist, let them know what you believe you can and cannot help with, and just be transparent. Because otherwise, I'm colluding in some sort of suffering game there myself, where I'm putting myself in a situation to make money, but I don't actually feel like I can help. It's a terrible situation. This is why there's such a big problem with the coaching industry, is that a lot of people are selling services and jamming things down people's throats just to make money, but they're actually not sure if they can help this person. They're not sure if they really can deal with what's going on because they haven't even taken the time to find out. They're just trying to sell the program.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a whole nother field of conversation. With couples, one thing I'll just say, because I don't know how much time we have left, in the Imago world, there's something that is taught, you know, as part of this relational framework. And it's that, yes, relationships are a high stakes game. We don't have great education. We don't have great role models. We weren't taught how to do certain things. We maybe didn't have a lot of experiences where people quickly apologized and repaired with us and said, hey, you know, I take responsibility for raising my voice at you. That's not how I want to relate to you. That's not the kind of conversation I want to have. Are you available now so we can, you know, talk about this? And you know, I'm sorry. And we don't have great examples from a lot of things. And what our psyche does is we pick a partner who's going to help us with this. We pick a partner who essentially we want them to pick up where our parents left off. So when you're walking down the street or you're flipping through a magazine or you're watching a television show or you're on a dating app and you feel that sensation, that feeling of like, ooh, hubba hubba, or I love this, or this is super hot, or this person's super attractive. Part of what's going on there is you're actually projecting that because yes, there's natural attraction and that's just like not even a choice, just happens. You also project that this person is going to fulfill and meet your needs in some way. That's like what's kind of put onto that. Oh, they're good looking. They must be a good person. They must this, that. They're going to be great in bed. And through the honeymoon process of like falling in love, part of what's operating there is we're sorting in the dating process, looking for someone to pick up where our parents left off. So I'm going to pick someone, I'm attracted to someone always that has a similar pain body and energetic frequency to one of or both of my parents. That's what imago means basically in Latin. Imago is Latin for image. So the image is in your psyche. It is a composite or a silhouette image of mom and dad, primary caretakers, whoever they were, positives and negatives, and everybody you fall in love with, everyone you get into a relationship with matches this in some way. So you're attracted to the negatives sometimes of mom and dad, and it's perfect because they match. It doesn't look exactly the same, but it rhymes. You know, there's like a resonance. And then I pick this person and fall in love with them so that they will give me the thing that I wanted and needed the most as a child and didn't get. They're going to help me complete the story. And when they don't, I get negative with them because that makes me anxious. So I criticize, shame, blame, and put them down so that they'll love me in the way that I want to be loved. And that's not a one-way street. That's a two-way street. Both people do it, which is why there's so much pain and confusion and heartbreak and wounding between men and women. And even when you know this, it's not always easy. You know, even when you know this and you maybe think about it every day like me, you still put your foot in your mouth. You still don't handle every moment perfectly, you know?
You've recently proposed to your partner. And I mean, you just mentioned you are still on this journey. What are some of the ways you shove your foot in your mouth? What are some of the ways in which you had to reconcile that your partner was confronting you with about yourself and your relationship? Ways in which you had to grow in particular?
Man, I mean, there's a lot there. I think there's a lot of mistakes that I've made. Excuse me. One of the biggest mistakes that I made is trying to meet her feelings with my action. So sometimes it's like people call it caretaking or fixing. So you're having a feeling, you're having an emotion that maybe I'm coding as negative. And so now I need to do something about that, or I want to change that. I don't want to feel this feeling. I don't want to experience this. You're sad. Okay, what can we do to fix it? That's something really I've had to work on a lot. And that's a pattern that comes from my family system. All of these are always related to our childhood and family system in some way. That's where we learned it. And with Alyssa, you know, she's a fiery partner. She tells me what she thinks. She lost her previous partner. For those that know her, know that there was a tragic accident. Her ex and a couple of their friends died at Shannon Falls in 2018. So there's something about that experience that was, while it was deeply tragic and terrible, and we wish that it never happened, there's also a kind of a gift in there from immense loss and tragedy that you sort of take on this position of like, hey, I'm not going to settle for bullshit. And, you know, she's got a little bit of a fire about her in that way. And she'll let me know, you know, when she's upset. Big feelings.
There's no fucking around. Life is more serious at that point.
Yeah. And, you know, she's also a woman, and women do tend to be more in touch with their feelings and their emotions and, you know, sensing, whereas like I'm more in my head and thinking and acting. And it's like, partly it's like part of the avoidance, because this is a whole other little side note for those of you that might be listening and you resonate with avoidant attachment. avoidant attachment is formed generally when one parent is like, the way they relate to you is through tasking. So it's like, we get things done, boop, 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 shopping, cleaning, and there's no actual relating about feeling and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you get really good at tasking. And sometimes the way that you love your partner is like getting things done, but then that's not their love language. But it's like, wait, I thought like I'm doing a good job. I just did all this shit around the house and you're not happy. So I think it's really just realizing like, oh, my partner, the way that she feels loved and appreciated and like understood is not necessarily going to be how I think that should happen.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to learn how to love her the way that she wants it. And she needs to learn how to do that for me. So that's been a big part of our dance for sure. And I think as time goes on, you grow and you get to new phases, you take on different commitments, you change, maybe subtly as a person. And all of this stuff needs to be sometimes renegotiated or reshuffled or re-examined. Because maybe in 10 years you think, oh, this is actually really important to me now. This is actually like something I really value and something I want from you. There's so much there, it could go on and on, but realizing that like, for me, it's like realizing I'm not right about everything. I'm not perfect. That was like such a defensive thing for me. A lot of like ego in that, a lot of like self-protection. And, I think a lot of fear. That's like a big thing. When clients tell me they can feel the fear in their body or they notice fear, I'm like, oh, you're on the right track. Because that's something that led to big awakenings for me. It would be just standing in my own kitchen and there's nothing really going on, but maybe my partner said something or didn't say something, or I didn't do something I was supposed to do. And then now I'm like feeling fear in my body. I'm like, I never thought of myself as a fearful person. And that's what I meant earlier about the layers of the onion is like, once you start kind of looking at things, if you're making progress, you will start to sense other parts and other stuff going on. It really is like just so much subtlety to it, I find, for me. And maybe that's because I'm a person who hasn't been deep in my feelings necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a lot of work for me to do there in the sensing department. Yeah.
It's interesting. Like you say, that fear was there. I can imagine someone who is maybe yearning to have a committed relationship, and maybe they've been in and out of a few short-term relationships. And I can just imagine someone listening to this and they're like, you just said like, you're feeling fear and that's like a good thing. You should be leaning into that.
Yeah.
I think something a lot of people struggle with. I mean, this is very true right now. There's so many people feel lonely, disconnected, people wanting partnership, not finding partnership, or entering in and out of many and not feeling or not knowing if this is something that they should continue down the road with. Yeah, I want to stick on this fear piece. Is like, so what is that? Like, say you're in let's say less than a year long relationship so far, and you feel like you both tick boxes for each other and you're interested in something more, but you're confronted with this. How do you speak to someone how do you not listen to that? You're afraid. Traditionally, you'd be like, okay, well, you should be running for the door if you're afraid. You should be, is that an alarm bell? Like, so many people get caught up in their mind of all these stories and all these things. So, what's going on there?
Well, there's different levels of fear, right? Like, I'm afraid that my dog is going to run into traffic and get hit by a car. Now, my dog right now is at home and safe and with my partner. I don't really need to be afraid of that. So if I'm in an alley and someone pulls a knife on me, it's a different level of threat.
Yeah.
So there are things that, we're going to get triggered by and have fears about. This is what relationship does. It just amplifies and magnifies everything that's already within you, which is why it's easy to kind of sit at home and meditate and be a single monk, not making light of that spiritual path, which is totally valid. But relationships do something else, which is they just like I think it was Phil, or maybe I read this somewhere, was saying like relationships are an unyielding mirror. It's just a relentless reflection back, kind of what is going on with you. And that's how I treat it is, I just look at like, okay, what is this? What's going on with me here? How am I contributing and co-creating to this moment? And the fear thing is like really beautiful because over the last 6 years, I've learned a lot, but there's something that's come up, which is like, I'll get into these moments where I'm not included or not invited. Mm-hmm. And it would make me feel really bad about myself. And it would make me feel something that I couldn't label, which is like, just kind of like this, like maybe bad feeling that I'm not included. Mm-hmm. And what I realized is actually there's something there with my life, which is a feeling of being unwanted, which could be, we can make up all kinds of things. Unwanted by women, unwanted on the sports team, right? You pick last. Yeah. Unwanted because they didn't hire you for the job, which I had so many. I've like rarely got a job from an interview in my life. Probably because I was meant to be doing this. Mm. And then also early on, when you feel controlled or criticized or guilt tripped by a parent, you feel unwanted there, from like an attachment perspective. Yeah. So once I was able to notice that and label it, like quite a bit of relief. So that's the kind of fear that I'm talking about. I'm afraid that maybe something's going to happen here. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose myself in this relationship. I'm afraid that I'm going to be with a partner who doesn't love me and accept me for who I am. Mm. Those are the kinds of fears, not terrifying fears of being, your life is being threatened and you actually physically need to stay alive and protect yourself. And we're all fearful people. And if we're going to make our relationships work, we are going to have to face our fears, the fears of abandonment and neglect, the fear that you don't care about me, you're not really listening to me, you're just here for you. Mm-hmm. There isn't sincerity, or fear that, I'm going to have to like totally put aside my hobbies and interests and the things that I love to be with you. And, you're going to try and dress me and tell me how to talk. And, you're going to kick me under the table if I say something politically at Thanksgiving that, you don't like. Those are fears. Yeah. They're not the kind of crippling things maybe that keep us up at night or that we have nightmares about, but they do get in our way because all of us will adapt to those situations. We will protect ourselves before we'll prioritize self-protection over connection with our partner.
Yeah. I mean, the pattern I definitely can see in myself through all of my life's relationships are the fear coming up when there's pressure, like the next level, whether it's, this is feeling like a more serious relationship. Mm-hmm. You're considering more commitment, you're moving in, you're proposing, you're choosing to have kids. These big choices that I think can feel like a lot. Yeah. At least that's where I've noticed that fear or pressure piece. And that's always been the point where it's been like, okay, there's something here for me. And this is probably the moment to lean in and see what else is there. Sign up. What's the next jump to take on that journey?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's what I recommend people get into relationships for is growth. Don't get in a relationship because you want to be happy all the time. Mm-hmm. Get into it because you want to grow immensely as a person. And Alyssa and I have had lots of difficult days. I think, the first years 2 and 3 of our relationship were like nightmarish, painful, very difficult at times.
Can relate.
Obviously, there's like lots of awesome moments, but a lot of heavy stuff too. A lot of things that neither of us had ever really looked at in relationship before. She's the first woman that I've ever lived with. Mm-hmm. And she's the first woman that, I ever had a relationship with more than a couple years. And hopefully she's the first and last woman that I'm married to,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Yeah, I think, you know, I've learned so much, and then also like we're a young couple and I feel like we've got a lot to learn. So it'd be interesting to see where we're at in, you know, 10, 20 years and what other kind of growth and expansion is there. But it's all like for us, it's just a practice. So if we just keep coming back to the practice, we, you know, stick with what's working, and we reflect on like, okay, how am I showing up? What am I co-creating here with my partner? How am I playing a role in this dynamic? Self-examination, looking in the mirror, that I think, you know, generally everything will be okay.
The piece I want to end on is we focus a lot on people in relationship. A huge pain point is people not in relationship and wanting relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for people who are so, I mean, desperate maybe is the wrong word, but I think it also accurately sums up how a lot of people feel, is like someone who really, really want to find something. Both men and women find their person, and they've tried and they've gone out and they don't feel they're there. What advice might you have for someone who, you know, wants that but doesn't feel like they can find it?
Yeah. It's a tough question. I think I spent many years alone in my life wanting partnership or wondering when I might meet the right person. And I only met the right person or started meeting options, at least better options, when I started to get excited about the idea of being in a relationship that I love instead of feeling resigned about it and hopeless.
Yeah.
So a great example is like Valentine's Day rolls around and you're single, or the holidays roll around and you're single. Instead of going into that not good enough story or the place of sadness and depression and all of that, you know, how can you actually stay in the energetics of, you know, yeah, I'm single today, but I'm really excited to be in that right relationship. It's on the way. I am heading there. And I think too many people spend time in the other dark, difficult, hopeless, resigned places. There are certainly a lot of challenges in the mating and selection process and finding the right person. Ultimately, all you can actually do is create a life that you love and you enjoy. So, you know, you like your job, you like your friends, you have hobbies and interests and things that light you up, and to fill your life with, you know, success, pleasure, meaning, you know, whatever that is for you, and to enjoy yourself. And if you are a positive, happy, successful person who enjoys themselves, provided you take a shower and, you know, brush your hair once in a while, you're likely to meet, you know, someone who is attracted to that.
Yeah.
Right. But it's very difficult to attract from a place of scarcity. It's very difficult to call in something when you're not making room for it. Like the kind of person who, like I used to do this, I would have these psychic kind of threads and these situationships with women who I dated for a couple months, or, you know, I was with one time, and, you know, chatting, maybe a couple phone calls, you know, maintaining these conversations. But actually I didn't want to be in real relationship long-term with any of them. And I was putting my psychic energy there. And that would also prevent me from thinking more about, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like the way that we might have a few extra drinks, or start smoking a lot, or start watching a lot of pornography, or playing a lot of video games, or spending a lot of time online shopping. If we don't like a part of our life, maybe we're avoiding it or not looking there. And one piece of advice that our mentor Phil gave me was, you know, prepare the ground. And he said, if you really want to meet someone, you should try emptying out a drawer in your bathroom, clean it out, and just have it ready. You know, you're making space for that person. Maybe make some room in your closet, right? A couple feet of space for that person, and feeling excited and feeling open, and not having any sort of golem energy about it. Like, oh, I have to have it, you know? Generally, you know, I would say that comes up a lot with the single people that I work with and talk to, is really just like the philosophy and framing and the way that they're looking at that aspect of their life. And the way that we think about things really does determine so much about what we get. Like you get what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And when you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. I do believe that.
Cool. I think that's a good place to end things, Nick. I've enjoyed sitting down with you and chatting.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
For our guests, where are the places they can find you and your work if they want to learn more about relationships, connect with you, work with you?
Yeah. Instagram is an all right place. I post there once in a while, but really highlysuccessfulcouples.com. Yeah. And the podcast, Highly Successful Couples, that's where you're going to find most of my work, at least most of what I think could be helpful or useful to people. Podcast is free, no ads, no BS, no wasting your time. And yeah, and if you got questions about my work or anything in my sphere, just send me an email.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet.